my family.
Yes.
So
Hey guys, welcome. Yes, so welcome to Mentor Mondays, and we have the man who brought BNI to India. Neeraj Shah is here. So before we let Neeraj Shah get started with his conversation, let's check if the connections are fine so that we can continue the show without any technical glitches. Let me check. So it looks perfect. Neeraj, I suggest that you also, if you can share, this video into your profile so that people on your Facebook friend list, they might also want to join the conversation.
Okay, you'll have to guide me in terms of how I can do that.
Yeah, so it's you need to go to my page called facebook.com/environment spaces.
Okay, let me do that. Just give me a second.
Mm-hmm. Or I'll do this. Okay, I'll send you this link on WhatsApp.
Yeah, no, I've just heard. Oh, it says it's not available. Okay. Yeah. Send me whatever you need to send me. How will you send it to me? By email?
Yeah, I think on WhatsApp. On WhatsApp.
No, if you can send me on email, that would be easier. If it's going to be possible.
I'll do that. No problem. Check. So the email ID is ns or something, right?
Yes, ns@neerajshah.me.
Okay. I'm just sending it out. So guys who are watching, you guys, what I want you guys to do is please like our page. By the time we set up the interview, please like the page and invite your friends to join. And we'll be beginning the show in the maximum next 2 more minutes. Okay, so just hang on. So the email is with you, Neeraj.
Okay. Yep, I can see.
So I can send it.
Yes. Okay. Okay, just opening it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's saying that the link may be broken or expired. Or
okay, then you need to go to this one. The second link I have sent you, facebook.com/ that one, the second link.
Okay, fair enough. Give me a second. Just copying that. Okay, it's loading.
So you'll see on the left side you will see live video or something, or just scroll down. You'll see.
Yeah. Yes, I see live.
Share it on your profile, and we can get started with that.
Okay. Oh, great! Here we are. Okay, I'll do that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, it's shared. Great to be here with you, Kashyap. I really appreciate it.
Yes, let me do the official way of welcoming you. So drum roll. So Neeraj Shah, welcome to Mentor Mondays, and such a pleasure, such an honor to have you here on the show. And so we have a lot to learn from you. And so why don't you start with your story? I want to know about your origins. Where did you get started, and all about your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. I'm a third generation entrepreneur, so I guess entrepreneurship is in the blood.
Okay.
My grandfather was a farmer and moved at a very young age to Kenya, because in he was looking for other opportunities, and the British were building a railway in Kenya, and he ended up then initially working there, and he was helping build the railway, and that's how he kind of got there, and then he managed to build up some savings and started a small grocery shop in the middle of nowhere, and supplying a British garrison that was nearby. And that's how he kind of started the entrepreneurship journey. And that went on to take him into the commodities business. So our family business was into commodities, and that kind of grew. And then my father joined him and, took the business international. So then he started working.
Yeah. So which year are we talking about here, Neeraj?
So this was my grandfather would have moved to Kenya in around 1912, and then he kind of invited his brothers, and over the next 10 years or so, and then they started to build up the businesses there. And then they moved from a very tiny place in the middle of Kenya called Sagana, and then they moved to Nairobi, which was the capital. And they began to, grow that business, quite well. And then in the early 60s, my dad, who was studying in the UK, I think when he was about 16, 17, they kind of just kept his passport and said, "You're not going back." He was at boarding school and said, "You're joining the business." And so kind of that's how my dad ended up joining the business. And then he started looking at opportunities in the US. So the UK, the US, and at that time, there were not many places where you could get a lot of Indian groceries. So, your tur dal, various spices, things like that, you just couldn't get in many places. So we were making that, and we started to get a good reputation, and we began exporting. And kind of that's how he was able to grow the international business. And it grew to a level where he ended up moving to the UK, back to the UK, because that was like a real central hub for the commodities business. And then kind of I moved there at the age of 12, and then kind of did all my schooling, university, etc. there. And then my dad moved back because he needed to we were in a very big joint family, and multiple people in the businesses. And then the various cousins and uncles decided to go separate ways, and my family, so my grandfather and his 3 sons, ended up taking over the business, and they were quite large businesses, so they needed my dad to come back. And then eventually I also ended up joining.
Come back to Kenya. Kenya is what you're saying, Kenya?
Yeah. So I came back to Kenya in 1993, 94. I kind of finished my university. I had an economics degree, and then I came back and joined our family businesses. I initially joined a packaging manufacturing company, and we were doing plastics packaging and flexible packaging, and we were doing about 250, 300 tons a month. So it was a large business, and I was kind of thrown into the export marketing. And that's kind of how I initially learned about sales. And then from sales, I went into national level sales, where I was dealing with larger companies like Nestle, Del Monte, Tetra Pak. Then from there, I kind of went into the factory, and I helped the business automate, and we implemented a ERP software. So I had an opportunity to really, see different sides of the business, right? From sales, from marketing, from dealing with small business owners to large multinational corporations, stuff like that. And then, right into manufacturing. So, how do you set up the whole manufacturing, automate it, etc. So that was the initial couple of years. And then thereafter, I ended up helping separate one of the plants. And, I set it up in the way that I wanted to set it up. And we were able to really increase the productivity. So that was a really good, that was very much a consumer-focused business where we were making shopping bags and, the kind of bags that you get at the grocery store and things like that. And we were able to increase that, the productivity from 60 tons a month to 120 tons a month, and using the same machinery, same people, but they were working less but producing more, because I was able to help really streamline the processes and systemize things. So I think initially I learned a lot from just all of that. I kept on being thrown into the deep end, or there would be a couple of problems that we would face, and then I was like, okay, let me go and roll up my sleeves and try and sort that out. And that I think you end up learning a lot like that. Then kind of I decided to help my dad, who was in the commodities business, and we got into rice milling. And at that moment in time, the whole supermarket trend was coming into Kenya, and because of my packaging expertise, I had a really good connect with the number one supermarket in Kenya. I could see them really expanding, and every month the packaging volumes were increasing. So I was looking at one of the trends, and I was looking at the trend, moving from people buying things loose to people buying things pre-packed rather than buying in bulk, like a 25 kilo bag, 50 kilo bag. People were getting into 1 and 2 kilo packets. So because of our packaging expertise, we were able to help put together a new market and create a new market on pre-packed rice. And we got into the premium basmati segment. And I learned a lot about marketing there, because what happened was that our rice was 15% more expensive than the competitors. Now, typically in the commodities market, you can't have such a huge price difference. So while I got lucky initially in getting into the number one supermarket, when we tried to get into any of the other supermarkets, we couldn't make any headway, because they kept on saying the same thing: you're too expensive. And then what we ended up doing was, serving some 2,000 housewives who were the end customers of our rice, and identifying why is it that they were buying this rice. Because when we looked at the sales in that number one supermarket in Kenya, they were amazing. So we definitely had a product which was good, and people were willing to pay that extra price, but we could articulate why that was. And then I got into this. I really surveyed the customers, and then I found out that they were buying our rice because it was fat. Now, that was the consumer speaking. Now we had to kind of translate that into what do they actually mean in a way that we could market our product much better. And I worked very closely with our food technologists, and we kind of kept on grappling with the idea to identify what was fat rice. And then finally we figured it out. One of the food technology tests that we did was that we looked at, we took a cup of raw rice and then cooked it, and then we saw how many cups of cooked rice came out. And then we were able to articulate that, hey, 1 cup of raw rice will give you 4 cups of cooked rice. And when we compared it with the competitor was only giving 2.5 cups of cooked rice. So finally, we were able to articulate our USP. And we changed our packaging, we changed our marketing, we started doing, tests, cooking demos, at supermarkets. And suddenly in the next 3 months, we saw our sales go up by 100%. So I really kind of learned some serious marketing techniques in an amazing setting.
Right. So basically, when you say marketing, you actually gave what the customer wanted, isn't it? Like the first step would be to go and ask the customer. Is that what?
Yeah, and I think the thing is that most people think about USP as unique selling point, and what I would like to get people to understand is that you need to just flip that on its head. You need to actually think of your unique serving proposition. You are here because you are solving a problem. Okay, the customer has a particular problem, and your product must somehow, your product, your service, your skill set, your key strengths must somehow align with serving that customer and helping create a transformation. And if you're able to focus everything on that, then what happens is that you've really got a very customer-centric company, and it's the customer-centric companies of the world that are able to, really command a premium. And here we were in a very competitive market, and yet we were commanding a 15% premium. And when we were able to articulate this in a way that was very easy for the customer to understand, I think that's the key. I think that's where people get stuck. First, identify who is it that you're serving. So we identified, okay, it's a certain type of housewife. They were upwardly mobile. They were working. They wanted convenience. So we identified all of those, and then we identified, why is it that they were buying our product. And then, streamline all our services, our packaging, our branding, the production to really maximize the delivery, of that USP. And I think if every company out there focuses on that, then what happens is that you really have a solid, not only product to market mix, like the match is there, and you're able to build a very solid marketing that helps reach the right customers. So I think that's one of the key. And this is where, a lot of small and medium-sized businesses that I've worked with, they typically end up getting stuck on that. So, yeah.
So I had a question.
We've kind of transgressed a little bit in terms of the story, but yeah, go ahead.
That's absolutely perfect. So, what was your sample size? You said you had an idea about your typical customer, and how many people did you meet, and what was your you went physically to their places, or did you call them up, or how was it?
So what we took part in an exhibition where we knew we would see our target market. So over 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we met some 2,000 housewives. So it wasn't like 1 or 2 people, it was like we met a huge sample of, and pretty much everyone kept on saying similar things. 90% of them gave some version of, we love your rice because it's fat rice. So, I would really recommend to people that, you want to be close to your customers. And I used to go into the supermarket and actually pose as a buyer, and I would go to the shelf where they'd be stocking our rice, and I'd see someone, buying that rice, and I'd say, hey, I'm wondering which rice to buy. There's so many different rices here. Why are you buying this rice? So I would oppose as another buyer. And that gave me the wordings that customers tend to use, which we then begin to incorporate in not only our marketing, but also our sales processes.
Right. So brilliant. Yeah. I had a question on that, Neeraj. Now, I think what you did was about 15, 20 years back. Was that you're saying? That process you went to physically?
Yeah.
So,
it must have been around 2000, 2003 or something, 2001. Yeah, maybe around that time.
So we're into 2019. My God, the time flies fast, right?
Yes,
So obviously during that time, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was no social media.
No.
Now, would you recommend a mix of online and offline, to do a survey?
Sorry, I'm at home right now, so you can see my little one. So he's
the next
here.
big star.
Yeah, he's going to be.
Yes. What's his name?
His name is Danish. Say hi to everyone.
Hi.
Little entrepreneur in training.
Yeah, brilliant. So, in today's world, would you recommend still people to go to the offline world and do their surveys, or should they sit back at home and wait for the results from Facebook and all these LinkedIn surveys?
I would recommend both. Because there is so much which is not quite said. So even if you did an online survey through any of the online platforms, I would actually put an extra question in there at the end where you say to people that, is it okay that I can call you, and I'm not going to sell you anything, so that you can actually have a conversation, because there's so many other things that you will pick up when you have a conversation with a person. So I will just say that, look, if I'm all for saving time and getting things out there quickly, and definitely the online platforms allow us to do that. But add an extra question there at the end where you get permission from people who'd like to be contacted, and then definitely do contact them. Because you'll learn a lot more than you will from the online survey. Because in the online survey, you're still kind of limited by your assumptions, by the questions that you've chosen. And there may be an off chance remark or something that someone says, which sparks a whole new way of looking at the whole, solution.
So brilliant. So moving on, so when did India happen for you in this period?
So India happened around 2004. Initially, maybe in 2003, I was looking. I'd come across BNI in the UK, and I was looking to actually take BNI out to East Africa. And then I don't know. I met some friends who had just got from Kenya, who had got married in India. And, they were really raving about how things had changed and etc. So they were really saying, hey, this is the next big place and, amazing things are going to happen. And then one day I just woke up thinking, hey, if I'm thinking about doing this, the place where there's a huge entrepreneur community, and the great family connections and things like that, that would be a great part to that would be a great place to actually have BNI. And I had a friend who had been asking me that would you be willing to partner with me? And then I think I sent him a New Year's message on the 1st Jan 2004. Hey, how would you like it if I partnered with you? Because they needed BNI needed someone here on the ground locally, and he already had some franchises in the UK, so he wasn't looking to move. So actually, he was looking for someone like me, and that's how I kind of came here, and I ended up, initially I was thinking of moving to Bangalore to get things started, because, in the UK or outside, we kept on hearing about how Bangalore was really a rocking place to be, and lots of entrepreneurs, and a hub for entrepreneurship and new technology and the IT boom. But then I had one contact in India from whom I had bought my packaging machines for the rice mill. And, he was based in Mumbai, and he said, look, and he's a very successful business owner and large business. And he said, look, Mumbai is the business capital. And if you're going to start anything business related, you should start it here. And then from here, it will spread to other cities across India. And I thought, actually, that made sense. So, so then I ended up coming here pretty much with a one-way ticket, and knowing one person. My family in Kenya wasn't very happy, but I really felt that this was something I wanted to do. And I kind of ended up completing the triangle. My grandfather went to Kenya. From Kenya, my dad went to the UK, and now I finally came back to India. And I really saw it as a real passion project. I really understood small business owners, and I felt that this was going to be something that was going to be revolutionary. And I was really super excited by it. So that's how I ended up coming here.
So the first BNI chapter started in Mumbai.
Yeah, in Mumbai, November 4th, 2004 is when we started the first chapter at the Indian Merchants Chamber.
Wow. Right now, I mean, and at least for people who are in business, everybody knows that, how big is BNI right now in Bangalore, and I'm sure across India right now.
So I mean, I think there are now about some 30,000 plus members across about 50 plus locations across India, 50 cities. So I think I ended up doing the hard work initially, which was, really establishing the concept, because initially when we brought it here, people thought we were some multi-level marketing company. Then I had to explain to them, no, it's a business network and what it meant. And then after the initial hiccups, it was very slow initially. In the first 2 years, we could only get 2 chapters started and 46 members. And
what was the initial apprehension from the business community? Obviously, maybe perhaps they could see the value in it, but what was the apprehension people had?
No. So initially, they thought it was a multi-level marketing company. So they were concerned, some other multi-level marketing companies didn't have a good reputation, and they thought, okay, this might be some sort of scam. Because a lot of multi-level marketing companies were not genuine and maybe had been just pyramid schemes. So they thought we were something like that. So we had to first kind of get that very clear that, no, this is a serious business network. Then I think
how did that happen? I mean, how did that happen? Obviously, was there a strategy that you had in place?
So what happened was that I kind of initially worked with this gentleman who I knew, who was very successful. And I kind of roped him in and 7 of his very successful business friends. So what happened was that whenever anyone walked into the room and they saw these very serious established businesses, they kind of said, oh, okay, these are quite big businesses. And because I had been used to running quite a sizable business, I was very comfortable with businesses of that size. That was kind of my friend circle and my peer group. So, I felt, very at home. It's only later that I realized that in a lot of the other countries, BNI had started in a very small way and was dealing mainly with solopreneurs, freelancers, etc. Whereas here we pretty much started with quite serious, business owners that were quite established. I think the other thing that really helped was after the first chapter got started, we actually had one of the members attend a BNI meeting in the UK in London. And then when he came back, he said, "Oh my God, all the things that Neeraj has been saying are true." Until then, they were just taking my word for it, and now they had someone from the group who had credibility in the group, say great things. And, that really helped establish more credibility. So, that was important. And then I think I just got very passionate about the mission that we were on, and I would talk to anyone and everyone. I attended so many networking events, all of those particular things, and I just got good at inviting visitors, because that's the one thing I understood that I had to do. I had a place that I could take them to every week, and I would gather as many people as I could every week. And then as more of the members began to see value in it, get business, they also began to invite people along to it. I think I became very good at articulating what we did very quickly. I think one of the other reservations was that, look, typically people said, "Hey, I already have a network to get referrals from, and I don't have to pay anyone there." And then I got good at answering that question, saying that, okay, that's fair enough. But I said, would you say that, your family and friends are part of that network? And they said, yes. So I said, okay, when's the last time you got a referral from friends and family? And then, people, it would click and go, oh yeah, actually that's true. I don't get many referrals. So I said, yeah, you don't. And I said, you don't have a proactive way of doing it, whereas this is a much more proactive way of doing it, rather than just praying that referrals are going to come your way. So then, as we did more trainings, people got more used to it. After the initial teething problems, we were able to establish.
How was Nori? What were the members getting business through this process? What was the result part of it?
Yeah, so what happened was that after 1 year, there was one particular member who had been in the computer hardware services who managed to get to 1 crore of business. Now, initially, I didn't understand what a crore meant. It's only later I found out, oh, wow, that's like 10 million rupees. Okay. So, but I knew everyone got excited. So it got me thinking that, hang on, if one person is able to do it, that means that this has the potential that we could help everyone do this. So then I got very clear about what were we trying to do. And it was like, okay, we were trying to help every business owner generate 1 crore of a new referral business. And when I started to articulate that, share that with others, and then I said, look, if we can do that, then we can create 10 new jobs. And, every job here, there's a family attached to it. So somehow we're impacting, 10 million families. So we're really helping build India. And, we're actually helping do this through, entrepreneurship and through a very systematic way of building a business. So once I got clear that this is the big vision, and then I said, okay, we want to have 1 lakh members. So we want to help create 1 lakh crorepatis, that support 10 million families. Then it became, a no-brainer. I mean, we started attracting, serious people. We started attracting serious people who wanted to become involved with us as franchisees, as BNI directors. And we got better and better at, putting everything together, delivering the product, the service, the training. So a lot of key learnings happened. And then I began to apply a lot of my previous business experience in terms of marketing. And I think at that time, the online marketing space was just developing. And, I started following a gentleman from the UK, from London, called Thomas Power, who's a real social media influencer. And at that time, like, I'd invited him to come over to India in 2008. He already was curating 50 of the top social media influencers. I mean,
Wow.
you've got to remember at that time, like, we were just at the beginning. LinkedIn wasn't there, and he had created an online business network called Academy. So I really began to learn a lot from that. And I understood that, okay, if I had a website, then I had to create something very simple, which is like, I had to have something called a lead magnet. And then what I did was, Dr. Meisner, the founder of BNI, had been mentoring me in terms of how to become an author. And then we ended up co-writing a book, which was like, he did the offline version of networking and I did the online version of networking. And then we put the book together. And, through that, suddenly we were able to generate something like 650 leads a month. And I was able to automate that process just through a very simple, we would collect the leads, they would get added to our newsletter. And then every week I'd be sending out a newsletter. Now, I didn't realize that, in 2009, that's something quite advanced, but, I saw people like Thomas doing it, and I just thought everyone else must be doing it. And, I didn't know I was following one of the leading, the thought leader out there. So I would say that, this is very important. You've got to identify some key thought leaders out there, key influencers, and see what are some of the things that they're doing. I think there's a lot that we can learn from them. And one of my, mentors from 1993, Tony Robbins, he always talks about modeling other successful people. Do what they do, think the way they think, and if you do the same things, you'll get similar results. So we were able to then pretty much.
So that is exactly what our platform is about, Neeraj. Find My Mentors is all about that, connecting people who have been there, so that, for example, you have built this big, networking. You brought BNI to India, and from that experience, many more people who are trying to build something similar to that, perhaps a franchise. They could rub off from your own experience, and they can fast track their own progress, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, what had happened was that pretty much BNI was completely franchised out in the US. And when we had got the franchise, they didn't really have much of a franchise training. I mean, literally, it was a very thin document and not much in it. And pretty soon, it kind of got to about 2012, and I got really kind of very anxious, saying that, okay, we have this huge market here, but we're not able to tap it because we don't have a system to franchise. And then I decided to just, roll up my sleeves again and then identify some people who had successfully franchised internationally. And I started to kind of follow them and read up on them, reading their blogs, attended seminars, webinars by them. And then I began to understand some key things. And I was able to really put together an amazing franchising process. Because I had initially, in fact, our first franchisees were the sub-franchisees in Bangalore. I learned a lot from that. And I helped them become the most successful franchise that we've had in India. And I think even to date, it's the largest. so I learned a lot from that, and I documented everything. I have to give some credit to Balaji there. He was good at, I was good at mentoring him and training him. And what he was good at was when we were on the call, he would actually type up everything, and then send me an email. So which was the summary of the notes. And we actually built the franchising process, from those notes. And I literally, all the, 20, 35, 25, 35 franchisees, we kind of use that system to really get them on the fast track. And so, yeah, I learned a lot about franchising, and I think a lot of people have misconceptions about franchising. The other day, I was talking to someone who was looking to grow their business through franchising. And I was asking them, why do you want to do that? Oh, this is a great way for us to get leads. And franchising, I would say, is a much more advanced strategy. If you've not built a solid business, then you can't actually sell a franchise. It requires a lot more. Having a franchise is like now having a second business. So what you've initially got to do is you've got to really build a solid business. Whatever you're asking your franchisee to do, all the problems that you faced, you should have ironed them out. Like, how do you market? How do you service clients? How do you get them to, how do you retain them? All of those particular things. And it's only then that you need to get into, you need to then systemize that and be able to train that and be able to handhold people through that. And it's not as a simple process as people think. So eventually we figured out with this gentleman who I had on the phone that actually they didn't have a lead generation system, and he actually needed to work on.
So
Kashyap, are you there?
I'm here, very much here, but yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? I think right now it's fine. Hello, is it fine, Neeraj? So we have some little bit of tech issue. Let's see if we're going to solve it. I'm trying to call Neeraj here. Let me see. I'm able to see him. Neeraj, are you able to hear me? Okay, guys, if you're watching this, let us know if I'm audible for you guys. I know people are watching, so if you can tell us if you are able to hear me. Hello.
Hi.
Neeraj, I can see you and I can hear you. Are you not able to hear me?
Hi, sorry.
I'm able to hear you and I can hear you here. But
okay.
Are you able...
But I'm not able to see you now. Do you want to ask me any questions on the phone, and then I can continue to answer them?
Let's do this. You can close this window and you can click on the link one more time on the email and you can come back.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So let's wait for Neeraj to join back, and in that time, if you have... Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Murali. Thank you so much, Murali. So let's wait for Neeraj to come back. So we learned a lot of things with Neeraj. So Neeraj, in his experience, he spoke about in the initial days of growing BNI, the real traction for BNI itself. Now, right now, we know how big BNI is. If you don't know BNI, you should check them out. They're a great organization. So, are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Perfect. Very good. So, I was just telling our viewers that how BNI got real traction when some credible person started to talk about BNI, right? So, as a lesson, I think for any business, if a person of credibility can endorse this brand,
Yes.
business can take off quite fast.
Yes, absolutely. You've got to identify some key influencers, and look to get them as a customer, and get them to experience the benefits. Because when people do experience the benefits, then you're able to get these people to help you expand. I think the other thing is you've got to have a compelling story, which is what as we developed and we got clear about why were we doing BNI. What was the bigger picture? It wasn't that only that hey, we're going to make so much money, but we were looking at how this was helping the entrepreneur community, and how this was helping build India at a bigger level. I think that really resonated well, with people. So I think it's important that you're able to show how, and I think it's so much more the case in this day and age, where people want to know that they're dealing with companies and brands which stand for something more than just making a profit.
I mean, that's very interesting, because now let's say let's talk about the example of commodity business. Now, what can be a story around that commodity business?
So the commodity business, we were looking at, there was rapid urbanization going on in Kenya. And as we had more women joining the workforce, then they had less time. So, what we were essentially selling to them was convenience. We were selling them hygiene. We were selling them value for money, because although the price was 15% more, the volume that they were getting was that much more. So it was still value for money. So we identified who the target market was, and then we were able to build a story around that. And it was really we were supporting the local farmers. Because my family had been in that business and knew those local farmers. So, that was another piece of the equation, where we was able to say that, look, you can buy imported rice, but here, by buying this rice, you're buying, and supporting local farmers.
So basically the lesson is, it is not about the product, but the story around the packaging, the story around the product that sells, isn't it, Neeraj?
So I think there's two elements. One part is that you've identified who you want to serve, and you've managed to find a very, very good way of serving them. And secondly, there needs to be a bigger story in terms of how does this fit into something more than just this is how much profit we'll make.
Okay.
You're making people healthier. You're impacting people's well-being. You're impacting the country. You've got to find what it is that will resonate, and do it authentically, not just as a marketing gimmick, but because it's something you really believe in.
Great. So and since you have been, in BNI, and BNI is an organization of networking. So can you share with us tips about the best practices for networking to grow business?
So a couple of key things. I think when you meet someone new, there was a simple way in which I used to engage them. So it's something called FORM. Okay. So F stands for family, so you kind of find out a little bit about them and the family, that kind of breaks the ice. Then the second question would kind of be around occupation, because people like to talk about what they do, even if someone's working, that's there. And then R would be, like recreation, what do people like to do in their spare time? Because that tells you a lot. And sometimes, commonalities can be found through that. And then typically M stands for money, which is like, notice little things about them, what sort of watch are they wearing? What sort of clothes? What sort of shoes? You're in a place where you can see them coming with a car. What sort of car did they come in? That tells you a lot, about, the person. So, you've got to be a detective in that particular way. So that was a nice way which could bring structure to any networking conversation. Second thing, learn to remember people's names. I was terrible at it initially. And then I put together a system because I said, hey, I'm going to have to do this all the time, So I put together a simple system that helped me remember, people's names and what they did. Because if I could remember that, then I could help them get more referrals or help them make better connections. So, first of all, when you receive someone's visiting card, get them to pronounce how they normally pronounce it and then repeat it, and then use that name a number of times in conversation. So, if you and I are meeting, say, hey, Kashyap, so tell me, where have you come from today? Because everyone's come from somewhere, So great, Kashyap. So tell me, what do you do? And, so you're not going to say to me, hey, stop using my name. In fact, it's actually going to build rapport with you, because the name is the sweetest, thing in the dictionary, So, you do that. And then finally, after you finish the session, then you want to go through the cards again and remember who they are. And, so then I'll say, okay, who can I relate you to? So I have another friend here in Mumbai who's also called Kashyap. So I'll say, hey, this Kashyap is into IT, but the other Kashyap is into insurance, and then I'll be able to bridge a link between a Kashyap that's known and that was not known earlier. So these are some simple ways. And then I used to use Evernote. I still do use Evernote, and you're able to take a photo of the card. And what happens is it immediately links it to your LinkedIn profile, and will also grab their LinkedIn profile. So I used to make some notes there, like, where did we meet, when we met, So tomorrow, if we met again, I could quickly pull that up, and I could bring that conversation, saying, hey, we met at this time, so tell me, how's the IT business doing? And you'd be like, wow, how does he know
he knows
that?
me.
Yes. So now you know the secret.
Yes, brilliant. So now, before the tech glitch, we were talking about your journey, and like you continued with BNI, and what happened after that? Like, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So what I found was that BNI only handled one part of the equation, which was referrals. And what I understood was that small business owners, entrepreneurs, professionals needed a lot more help. And I started a new organization called Titan Masterminds, which was based on how we could actually help accelerate the journey to 8-figure plus revenues a month. Initially help people first cross 8 figures in a year, and then help them build an organization which can actually do 8 figures a month, and do so while working less. Because last 2.5 years that I was running BNI, I was working a 3-day work week. My son who you just saw earlier, he was born, and my wife also worked with us, so handling operations. And we're hands-on parents, and we decided to really kind of divide the responsibility. So 2 of the days I was actually taking care of my son, and that's why we have an incredible bond. And I saw that many entrepreneurs, for the sake of their companies, were really devoting crazy hours and not having enough time for their families, for their health, things like that. So I started looking at how could we actually help them with that. And we've now put together a 9-step blueprint that actually helps people do that. And typically what I found is that there are 3 phases for growth. The first phase is that you've got to upgrade yourself. There are 4 levels at which you will have to upgrade yourself. Just think about it. You've entered the business Olympics. If you'd enter the Olympics for any sport, okay, you're going to train yourself physically, you're going to train yourself mentally, you're going to train yourself emotionally, and you're kind of going to play to your strengths, which is, I'm going to call it that, the spirit level. All of those 4 levels, you've got to learn how to expand yourself, because as a small business owner, you are the business. And if you don't, your business is going to grow to the level you grow yourself. And you're going to have to learn how to expand those 4 levels, because those are the 4 most important levels that you're going to have to grow. An entrepreneur is someone who embraces risks. An entrepreneur is someone who goes out there and finds a solution. An entrepreneur is someone who is willing to face adversity. But if you are not going to be able to, expand yourself in these 4 levels, then you're not going to be able to do that on a sustainable manner. So, we typically help people really work on that. And I really believe that productivity there's a formula for it. FE times T is equal to P. So T is time, which is fixed for everyone. Everyone has 24/7. But and P is productivity. So then E stands for energy. And you have physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy, and spirit energy. And you've got to learn how to expand those 4. And if you then focus that, so then you have focused energy times time, that's when you get serious results. So, I work in a completely different paradigm, but I've seen incredible results, both in my personal life and, with the mentees that I've worked with. And that's the first foundation we've got to work at. Once we're able to expand that and they have focus, I typically get people just to focus on 5 things that they spend 90% of their time on. So typically the first 3 are marketing related, because you've got to have a system to get new clients. Then you've got to have a system to sell more to existing clients, and you've got to have a system to retain existing clients or get them to buy more frequently. So the initial 3 are all related to marketing, and each are separate systems. Then you've got to learn how to develop a team. So, a second line of management. And then you've got to learn how to tell stories. And I think a great entrepreneur, a great leader is a great storyteller. So we help people get really focused on those and really expand the vision and get very clear. We do a exercise to help them get very clear on the vision, like how I articulate it. We help them articulate their vision in a way which really connects with their customers, with the world at large.
And talking about story, I want to, maybe there is a negative understanding about the story part, and people say cooking up stories, they say, right? I'm sure you're not talking about that part, right?
No, not at all, not at all. So there are 3 levels of storytelling that I would say. The first part is you've got to get good at telling customer success stories. How did you serve a customer? What types of customers do you serve? The second one is you've got to get good at telling employee success stories, because again, without a team, you're not going to be able to get far. Okay. And often, telling those success stories, recognition, these are great ways in which we can inspire, motivate our teams. It's not always money. In fact, money comes number 3. So that's the second one. And the third one is you've got to be able to tell stories about your stakeholders, your suppliers, because, it's a team game. I have IT suppliers, I have HR people, I have accounting people, many of them that are outsourced, they're suppliers, but the key parts of our team. If they didn't do a great job, then we wouldn't be able to deliver to the best level. So I think you've got to be able to capture great stories there, and you've got to be able to share them, because people want to know what type of company you are. Prospective customers want to know, prospective employees want to know, prospective suppliers want to know. And if you're able to tell positive stories about all 3, then actually it helps you build goodwill right across the ecosystem.
Brilliant. So, I'm done with my questions. So, so we spoke about tips on marketing, and you said you're going to help us learn about how to build a 8-figure business. Did you already cover that?
So we kind of got to part 1, which is the foundation, which I was saying you've got to expand those 4 areas. Then the second part is you've got to be able to build a marketing funnel. And typically what I found is most businesses don't have a funnel. They still rely on referrals, and they don't know how to generate inorganic leads. And they don't know how to do that in a very systematic, inexpensive manner, which is in sync with their business processes and the sales system. And then the third level is more about scaling up, which is once the lead generation becomes really good, you've got to have a sales process in place, which is replicable. You've got to be able to, you might be doing initially one-to-one sales. How can you either have a team, so you get into team managing a sales team, or how do you do one-to-many sales? So we help with both. And then from there, how do you develop a second line of management? So typically what I find is that, you've got to have 5 key business heads. You'll have to have one, which is marketing, which helps get the right type of leads. You'll have to have a second, which is a sales manager, who's able to manage the sales team. And typically sales managers grow sales people, and salespeople grow sales. The third is you have to have a solid operations team, which is the glue, between sales and production. You've got to have a product team, which actually develops new products and services, which are things that the market wants. And then you've got HR and accounting, finance, which many of those things can be outsourced. And I think the key thing there is that you've got to go from, typically most people are now working in the knowledge economy, so they are some sort of professional. So they may be a IT engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, a chartered accountant. So they're a technician level. What they've got to do is they've got to make a transition from technician level to manager. From manager, then they go to the next level, which is a leader, which is now they have managers reporting to them, and they're leading the managers. And then they go to what I call the entrepreneur, who's the visionary.
Wow.
And each one of those has a different timeline. Typically the employee, who's the technician, is looking at day-to-day stuff. The manager will be looking at maybe a quarter ahead. A leader will be looking 6 to 9 months ahead, and the entrepreneur is generally looking at 12 months to 18 months ahead. So how do you get entrepreneurs to go up that skill set? Because all of those are key skills that they've got to learn. I think that's where we come into play, and we've developed a 9-step model.
Yeah,
And if
and
you,
I want to also add one, Neeraj. Now I myself did my MBA,
Mhm.
and it is possible that lot many people know, okay, these are the steps, but the actual problem happens when we hit the ground
Yes,
running.
yes,
So knowing is one different part, and doing
yeah,
is a different part.
yeah. And that's why you need a mentor, because a mentor, there's a difference between a mentor and a coach. A coach may or may not have produced those results, but a mentor is someone who's actually produced those results. So when I'm talking physically, like I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. I met a mentee that I haven't seen for close to a year. Like I've lost something like 10 kilos. My body fat has gone from 24% to 17%. So
Wow.
all the things that I'm talking about, I'm actually living. And there's, I think that's the difference. So when I'm talking about these marketing campaigns, I'm actually running those marketing campaigns in my business. So there's a different level. What can happen is when you're working with someone like that, they can compact 20 years of experience into 20 minutes, and it can be worth a year's income.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
uh, and I think that's the key of having a good mentor. So you've got to find someone who is already doing those particular things right now. And I think if you find someone who has that, and I think there are four other things. I mean, apart from mentorship, I think there's another three things that you need to have in place. Okay, which if you have these four things, then it creates the perfect environment which produces results. Which is at the end of the day, there is always an execution gap. Because people go to trainings and they learn a lot of new things, but they're not able to apply. So mentor, actually leads you through that in the hand holding, like while you're implementing. So it's not just learning, but implementing. Secondly, they hold you accountable. So there's an accountability partner, and you have very specific things to implement, and they follow up on. You need to have a peer group. So you need to have other such people, other such entrepreneurs who are traveling that same journey, so that you're able to support each other, because we learn as much from the mentor as we do from our other tribe members. And typically that's why people end up going to a exercise class together, because they have that camaraderie, and they end up wanting to go there. And then the last is you've got to have a system. So if you have a system, a systematic way, step-by-step way, which is like joining the dots, then it becomes very powerful. I think that's what we've been able to put together. And in the last 2 years, I've worked with over 200 such entrepreneurs, helping them implement that system. So we've really got it fine-tuned now.
Brilliant. I'm done with my questions, and also the time is up, and I know you're a busy person. So what
Sure.
would be a last question to the entrepreneurs that you want to tell them about? What would be one message that you want to tell them about?
I think if you're going to grow your business, then your business is going to grow to the level that you grow yourself. So you've got to learn how to grow yourself across all these areas. It sounds strange advice, maybe, but let me tell you, from my experience, it's been one of the most profound things that has helped me grow my business and the mentees that I've worked with. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
So nice. So apart from Find My Mentors, where else can can people get in touch with you?
So titanmasterminds.com. So Titan, Titan, and masterminds with an S.com. And neerajshah.me. So NEERAJSHAH.me is my personal blog as well. So I blog quite regularly. I also create a lot of videos. So you can get all the other links through there. You're able to see our 9-step model on titanmasterminds.com. So these are the two places that I would invite you to have a look at. Of course, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn. So these are all the areas.
Brilliant. So that was it. Thank you. It was an honor to host you. And
thank you so much. I really
Yes.
appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Have an awesome evening. Yeah. Bye.
Yes. So guys, so that was Neeraj Shah of Titan Masterminds, and we got to learn a lot of things from him, isn't it? So if you want to learn from him more, just go to findmymentors.com and search for Neeraj, and you'll be able to find Neeraj, and you'll be able to book a slot for yourself, and get connected with Neeraj as your mentor. So now I want you to like our page if you are watching this. Like our page, because that really helps us to continue what we are doing. We're doing this just for your own benefit. So if you have any suggestions about how we can improve the process, do let us know. We'll be happy to incorporate them in our processes. So until next time, until next Monday, please continue helping us and keep liking our posts, because that tells us that we are doing a good job. Okay, so thank you so much for joining, and until next Monday, have fun and take care.